What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Bold Women Podcast. My name is Maria Weiler, and I'm here with my dear friend, the one and only Meryl Wilson.
It's me.
It's her. She's right here. We've got a topic today for you. We are...
As we usually do. That is what we're here for.
We are topic-based.
We are the Bold Women Podcast.
Yeah, we talk about topics.
Yep.
But you know what topic I think you should discuss today?
I don't want to.
Social media.
But I will. So we're on it. We tell you every week. We're on Spotify. We are on Apple Podcasts. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. But you should probably just reach out to us on Instagram if you feel like it.
Woo!
How about that? You can comment on our episodes when you're listening on Spotify now, and so that's kind of cool.
We can comment right back.
Feature. Yeah, we can look at that now and see your comments and like them and stuff. So you can do that. You can leave us voice notes and whatever suits your fancy.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Today, guys, we are talking, and I feel like we hear this stuff all the time, but stay busy, grind, claw your way up to the top if you have to, fight to close the gender gap. It could pertain to pay, performance, promotion, or education. Don't stop. And I feel like our society today is putting a lot of pressure on women to be these supernatural beings who can manage being top executives and mothers while simultaneously staying fit, youthful, and sexy, remain attractive, relevant to our spouses or our future spouses. And we are going to be talking about navigating hustle culture.
Yeah, if you couldn't gather from that little
spiel, I feel exhausted just reading it. In all honesty, but I've gotten so caught up in it too at the same time.
So something that's interesting to me is like, okay, this is like a chicken or the egg type of question.
Oh, I think I have any.
But it's like, did this whole thing start because a lot of people say, oh, these societal expectations put all these wild expectations on women. And it's like, but do women... just because of the way that we are wired? Like, who was it that actually started overthinking to the point that said, everyone else must be assuming that we need to fill all of these roles at the same time? Did society do it? Or is it a woman? But I guess the femmes, aka the feminists, would probably argue that it's all the men's fault that they have all these unrealistic expectations. But a lot of times that'll come from rather bitter feminists who've probably been hurt by too many men.
I feel like a lot of, just generally speaking, expectations that we have are self-induced.
Yeah.
Like I'm thinking of...
Because I think of this stuff too, and I'm like, yeah, I do that all on my own.
No one's ever said anything to me about it, but it's all fully just me putting it on myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think especially, too, if you have, like, drive and ambition, just generally as a person, you typically tend to function a little bit more in hyperdrive this way anyways.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that it's like we're, in the West, in a capitalistic society.
Mm-hmm.
You've got all this advertising and stuff. There was, did we talk about this on an episode?
Is this
once?
your California story?
Yeah, the gal from Australia.
Yeah, I think you should...
Yeah,
absolutely.
I can't remember what episode it was on. Probably maybe something like modesty or something like that. I don't remember what episode it was. But I'll refresh everyone's memory because it's been a minute. Yeah. But it was like some lady from Australia flew into LA and she was absolutely astonished at her first trip to the United States with just, she's like, you couldn't go a city block without at least seeing 4 or 5 billboards on different types of like plastic surgery or cosmetic procedures that you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And she was just like, that is so wild. And it makes total sense why women in the West are the way that they are, because this stuff is in your face all the time, everywhere. And that does have an impact too, because it's like, I think about when you travel to like Vegas or Scottsdale, Arizona. Everyone's knowing where I'm going with this. If you've been to either one of those cities, like every woman looks the same And unfortunately, Kansas City is like turning into that also, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like everyone is seeing the same plastic surgeon. They're all getting the same like lip stuff. They're all getting the same nose jobs. They're all, you know, they're all getting the same things done, all the same extensions by the same person and everything. So they're all just like weird variations, but not at the same time. I don't know. It's, you know what I'm talking about.
And this was really interesting. There was one of, and it's not necessarily like along this line, but it reminded me of this. Like when I was in Tanzania, one of our translators came back over to the States, and we asked him, like, "Hey, what was your first thought of America?"
Are you guys okay?
And he goes, "You guys, I have two things. You have food everywhere, and why is everybody in their underwear at the pool? Like
food everywhere, and yet we've got people going hungry. Isn't that funny?
Yep, isn't that funny? So it's just, I don't know. Our world is very backwards. I guess maybe, is that a way? I don't even know.
That's what happens to a lot of like really powerful countries and societies. It's like they can't help but turn into like this over-sexed, over-sexualized like society. Because I mean, if you think about like
even think of Rome,
Grecian culture, Roman culture, like way back in the day, like what caused a lot of their societies to collapse at various points was because there was just a bunch of power and money, and then that brought all kinds of other issues with it. And then, so I mean, it's kind of like what's happening here.
And I think too, well, there's a scripture that says the love of money is the root of all evil. Not like having it, but I think we can look around our culture, and our culture loves it. And so what's also stems out of that, like other evil things. And not saying like if like if there's other things you want to do to make yourself beautiful, but like what's the heart what's the heart of it?
I think that's a great answer to the question that we have listed here first, which is, why do we think people in our society today are obsessed with this like hustle mindset? And I think you're right, because I think it's just people worship money. Mm-hmm. Because while there's a difference, because it's like you can sit there and be like, the love of money and then whatever. But when you have that like perspective that like that money is the only thing, and money does a lot for you. It does. But in the sense that with your perspective being that money is a tool that can provide a means of doing things, rather than just being obsessed with accumulating. Like if I'm saying that in a clear way, I guess, in a way that makes sense anyway. Yeah. But I think that there's that distinction, because I don't know, because I think that like people would be like, oh yeah, everyone loves money, even people who say that they don't love money, and it's like, no, I think you're missing it, because there's a difference in that, in the way that you view it.
I think there's also the root of it goes down to like, just with this obsession with it, this lack of identity, where if I hustle and like now this gives me an identity, like I'm this entrepreneur that's spread so thin and I have no time for my family. I am, not that you intend on that, but it gives you something to identify with yourself. Or I'm fill in the blank. I'm going to school. I'm doing all these things. Like there's something that like, and accomplishments do make us feel some way, but sometimes I feel like we are getting dopamine hits off of accomplishments that are exhausting us instead of like resting within our identity in Christ. Yeah. Like we're having to prove, almost like we don't know our identity, and we're having to prove our own worth by all that we do. Yeah. And so the more that I can do, or the more that I can wear myself down and exhaust myself, but I have this list of accomplishments that I have behind me, I now feel maybe more accomplished and better about myself, because I don't give myself even time to let the Lord work on my own identity.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that's also another piece, because in our culture, we've removed Jesus from it as a whole.
Oh yeah.
So that genuine concept of majority of people being taught that they're loved by God from as little kids, that's gone. You have people who've grown up never hearing that. Yeah. And so I think we're starting to see where we have to feel like we have to work to earn love or approval, acceptance.
Well, and it's a way,
those accolades.
yeah. It's a way to, those accolades. That's what you're saying. That's good. That's pretty much was going to be my thought too. Other than I was just going to say, it's an identity thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I have a question for you then.
What?
So, like, in what ways in your personal life have you been impacted by this mentality?
Okay. Okay, so I've been of the opinion that the enemy has done, a good job of creating a distraction culture rather and like masquerading that as hustle. So like if you hustle,
go on to that.
So if you hustle and grind and you're working yourself to the bone and you have no peace in your home, in your mind, in your spirit, then you're right where the enemy wants you, which is away from Jesus and the calling that he has on your life. So it's like, yeah, I look around and you can see people that are like, oh, well, and a lot of times people will equate hustle with like a good work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I just grind and I hustle and stuff. Actually, somebody with a good work ethic knows when to stop.
Mm-hmm.
They know when to rest. They know when to give up on an idea that they are pursuing or something
mm-hmm.
that a venture that they're trying to have take place or whatever. Gosh, why am I like, I'm like, my words are all over the place.
Right. It's because it's raining right now when we're recording this.
Yeah, it's stormy. It's a little stormy out.
I love a good rainstorm.
I love a good rainstorm, but that also makes me tired. So, but yeah, and I think that people think that. So it's like, but really what they're doing is more than likely distracting themselves, because if you stay busy, if you think about this.
Okay, thinking.
When you go through traumatic events, the loss of a loved one, I think about my divorce or whatever. There's tons of things like surrounding that are very task oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of even trying to start processing what you're going through, you will immediately, I do this every time. And I think that this is just a very natural, like, human reaction is like, you get very task oriented and then you just hyper focus on the things that need to get done. And you go through the motions and you're like, okay, so this isn't going to be too bad. But then once those tasks are like finished or they've let up where you aren't having to be so involved in making decisions about afterlife care or,
how you're going to split the house,
court proceedings, things like that, then the weight of that all kind of comes crashing on you. So if you think about it in that sense, you can have, this massive hole in your heart, which is a space that only Jesus can fill, but you will be busy. Mm-hmm. You will make yourself busy and have that be the facade of, I work hard, I hustle, I grind, I'm all about, success and whatever. And just so that you can avoid all the stuff that you really actually do need to be facing, which is what needs healing.
And I feel like it's almost like busy or numb. Like you can try to numb yourself to it too.
Oh, yeah.
Like we will do anything to avoid having to like sit with ourselves.
Yeah.
Like that's human nature doesn't want to sit with itself.
Yeah. And that's really addictive too, because it's like, as you're doing this, sure, you're going to make mistakes as you're like hustling and whatever, but at the same time, you will get people that notice that and they will give you, quit playing footsie with me.
Sorry, I was your foot.
And
we don't have shoes on, so that was a little bit awkward. That was more creepy. Like foot to foot.
Yeah.
I have a very funny footsie story if we need it. It's actually very awkward.
Must we?
Kind of. It's very funny.
All right.
So
I'll pause my train of thought.
Or do you want to finish your train of thought?
And then it's already leaving me.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So I was working.
I'll try and get it back.
And I was wearing Sperry's and I was in my cube and I was a supervisor at this time and I was sitting in my chair and I like crossed my legs And I was sitting in the chair, and then one of like my agents came over to talk to me, and I was like, oh, I should probably be professional and put my shoes on and not sit here like this. So I turned to look to him, and I thought I was sliding my feet back in my Sperry's, and I was like, this doesn't feel like my Sperry's. I look over, and my feet are wrapped around his feet. Like the way he was leaning up by my desk, I put my feet out, turned towards him, stuck my feet out thinking they were in their shoes. And I wrapped my feet around his feet, and I was like, oh, I can't undo this. I think we just laughed.
That is the most disgusting thing.
We're still friends to this day, but it was just like, his name was John. So I don't know if you ever listened to this, John, but I am so sorry about that. It was funny. All right.
I don't even know what to say.
Okay.
I completely lost my
Back
train of
on
thought.
topic, though. I do think
I
there's
don't know. I thought I was going somewhere. I thought I had some
She
wisdom.
was, in
busy.
that, she was in that hustle. Okay.
I was in that hustle culture.
Byron, get out of here.
The
Here's a culture.
But there is a difference between being busy and hustling, though. And I feel like scripture does talk about, like, he's like, look at the ant, look how they prepare, watch what they do. Like scripture doesn't tell us to be lazy. Lazy is very different.
Yeah.
I think the sweet spot is, like you were saying, is knowing that, and actually like, what was I going to say? Like a hard worker does know when to stop. And there's a couple of things that come to mind is I heard someone say once, like, we need to live life at the pace of Jesus, and he never ran anywhere, but he always walked.
Yeah.
And I said, we need to live a life at 3.0, which means like on a treadmill at 3.0 is basically a walk for
a nice steady
it's a nice steady pace. And where it said like Jesus was always busy, but he was never in a hurry. And I really like that thought. And then I was listening to a podcast. I'm a big fan of John Bellion, and
You don't say.
I do say I'm a big fan. And he was on the George Janko podcast.
Yep.
And I was listening to that, and he was talking about just some changes he had made in his life. And one of the things he said he's like, he goes, I work from 11 to 7. He's like, I go to the studio at 11 a.m. And he goes, I just crush work from 11 to 7. But when 7 o'clock hits, I stop. I'm done. You don't like, my family gets me from the time I wake up until 11. And then at 7 until the end of the night, he's like, it's like my family needs that time, and that's my family's time.
Yeah.
And he just talked about like putting those hard stops in his life where he has, like the number of famous people that are wanting to work with this man, where he could be busy from sun up to sundown, but he's kind of like dug in and stuck to where I will always be busy, but I will never like be.
Yeah.
Or he's like, I've done that. It doesn't work. And
yeah, I think that people who hustle or even like pride themselves on that type of lifestyle could be controversial, because if you think that you're a hustler, then
I'm a hustler, baby. Just want you to know.
She's not.
I'm not. That song came to my head.
But if you are like a self-proclaimed like hustler or whatever, like you got a bunch of little things going, in my personal controversial opinion, I think somebody who prides themselves on that is someone who may work hard, but they're not working smart. Like, because they're often just like, they have so many plates spinning and they're doing a lot of different things. And sometimes the way that they go about it, you're like, why are you doing that? And it's just like, I don't know. You just kind of get, what I was kind of going off of earlier was saying, you know, being known to be like having like sort of a hustle mentality or type of lifestyle when it comes to like work, or, you know, how you make money and things like that, is like addictive for people, because
That's true.
It's not only just for the, well, it's for the accolades, but also for like the attention and for like validation. And it all comes from, more than likely, I'm speculating here, but more than likely because they weren't validated or they weren't, something happened to like spur people on. And, but that's not to say, because there's tons of successful people who know how to rest well.
Right. And they have lots of
who
things.
started out that way, and they allow like the negative things or whatever that have happened in their lives, like drive them and push them to be better. But I'm talking about people who are just like, it's like they're treading water. And
they're just going to keep adding more.
They're just on a hamster wheel, just running, because they're not necessarily doing the things that they need to do to get out of that cycle. Because I think that also it's a necessary season in life. I think we all kind of go through a period of that in life, and then some of us get out of that, and then we move forward. And
there is, I don't remember what country it is in, but there is a robot that was created to run solely off the applause and approval of people. And the second it stops, like a second applause and approval of people stop, it dies. Like it cannot be restarted. And so people have like flocked all over to help see how long they can keep this thing going.
Ew.
And it is one of the saddest things, because it's like, I equate that to us sometimes. Like so many times, like we keep on going for the approval of people. And once that is there, then it's like we just allow ourselves to. And I think that's some of what stems in hustle culture too, is this like this constant approval of people, because it could be you're in multiple different lanes, you're doing all these different things, and like so you're getting that from people.
And then you think about social media influencers too.
Oh yeah,
and how you notice how sometimes they like have really good ideas, or they have some good content, or they start out with some good content, and then people start catching on and noticing, and then they do some good stuff for a while, and then at some point it's like they veer off and just start doing all kinds of weird things just to keep the views up, just to keep the attention of I don't know, to get more followers or whatever. It's like something switches in their minds that makes them think that they need to start just doing, I don't know, the
makes
most.
me think. I was watching last night the movie, I think it's called Mother of the Bride. And basically like there's this situation where the young girl's getting engaged and she works for a social media company, and that very thing happens. And like they're all of a sudden it's like, hey, we love how this is taken off. We want to send in all these people to like fund your wedding basically. And then her mom kind of challenges her. She's like, you've lost yourself. And she was like, the dresses that whatever so-and-so paid for you, you don't even like. Your bridesmaids hate. You
Who's in that?
Oh, it's such a good movie. I can't think about what I'm not trying to think of it.
Mother of the Bride. I just keep thinking
Netflix.
of Father of the Bride with Steve Martin, and I love that movie.
No, it is. Yeah, it's that first one. Brooke Shields, Benjamin Brett, Chad Michael Murray, Miranda Cosgrove.
Okay.
It's very cute.
Benjamin Brett. Chad Michael Murray, my friend in high school, was like obsessed with him. I was like, why do you need three first names?
Oh my gosh, yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Yes,
I did find this too when you were talking. I looked it up, and I know we mentioned like the Jesus walks, and this is where it comes from. So it's a Japanese theologian named Kosuke Koyama wrote a book called The 3 Mile an Hour God. And this came from 6thgen.com, but it says, this is the quote from him. And it says, love has its speed. It's a different kind of speed from the technological speed that, okay, I'm going to read this. Love has a speed. It is a different kind of speed from the technological speed to which we are accustomed. It goes on in the depth of life at 3 miles per hour. It is the speed we walk, and therefore the speed the love of God walks. So I just thought that was really good.
That is good.
And at that point, and then he kind of challenges you in this article where it says, look at the work of God in the world and see how you can adjust your pace to what he's doing. Like if you feel like you're getting out, where's the pace of God, and see how you can adjust to where you can fit into that pace.
Yeah. I did a Bible devotional called Less Hustle, More Jesus. And the quote that I pulled from there one of the days was like, whatever kind of juggling you've got going on, it's probably impressive. But did you know that our brains can't effectively switch between tasks after all? Studies have shown that we lose more time by making frequent mistakes. We don't retain as much. We become more forgetful and our relationships suffer. Seems we're wired by our creator to do one thing well at a time. Why not try simplifying it a bit? It may seem very uncomfortable at first, but you might find that you enjoy being more present and less scattered. Just ask the one who made you to show you where to start.
That's good.
And I thought that was really interesting too, because it's like, I feel like that is a symptom of the female brain.
100%.
I feel like we think that we're really good multitaskers, and sometimes we can juggle a lot of things mentally at once, because you can kind of just
Because our brains
sort
always
of
going.
have it on a plate and kind of just view it all at the same time. And then, like, a lot of times it's like you're subconsciously just like mulling that over in the back of your mind, and you just kind of shift things to the front, whichever one is of most importance in that moment. But I find myself doing that kind of thing all the time. Where, like, what was you and I were talking on the phone the other day.
Mm-hmm.
We were doing a little video chat, and
this was on one of my emotional breakdowns.
yeah, and I was like trying to talk to you, but I was also like trying to like make food and then clean something all at the same time, and then I was like, and talk, and then I was like, hold on a second, let me just let me just look I was like, sorry, I think I even said that to you too. I was like, sorry, I cannot do more than one thing at a time.
I think the favorite part of our conversation was when you flipped the phone over and Carl was rolling on his back in the grass.
Yes. that was
great.
cute.
It made my day. There's a couple quotes that well, we have some quotes in scripture, but you guys know how I love Brene Brown.
Yes.
And she had this quote. It says, "It takes courage to say yes to rest and play in a culture where exhaustion is seen as a symbol status." And I just thought that was very good.
It is good.
Like, in this way of like, oh, how many times how are you exhausted? It's like we wear it like a badge of honor.
Yeah, I don't want to be known as somebody who's exhausted all the time.
I think about the people that are tired all the time. You're always kind of like on eggshells around them. How are they going to be? Are they going to snap because they're just too much is going on? Like, you can't deal with people well.
I was reading somewhere today, actually, that there's a correlation between high, like, consistent levels of cortisol and Alzheimer's. And it's like, yeah, it's like if you are constantly stressing yourself out, and a huge part of that, hate to tell you, listeners, dear listeners, that sleep is incredibly important.
Huge.
No, you can't run on 5 hours of sleep every day.
Your body
You can
heals.
do it because you've trained your body to do it, but guess what? That does not lower your cortisol levels. That actually just keeps them at a heightened
I was talking with my
level.
A coworker, and we were talking about this the other day, and she's very like health conscious, but one of the things she has said too, she's like, I have learned that she's like, I would used to like wake up and go to the gym. If I didn't get enough sleep, go to the gym. If I did whatnot, go to the gym. Like, it was always gym. And she was like, yes, that's good, but I've been starting to learn where if I don't get a good night's sleep, I don't go, and I let myself go back to sleep, because the rest is more important than like what's actually happening with my body at that point in time, and like what it does. And it's like,
that's something that I've had to
is.
kind of think about too, is I think since you told me that, I think that was last week or something, like a week ago, that you shared that with me. And then I thought about it and was like, man, that's right. So, and I think that we just get like too in our own heads about stuff like, say, working out. And it's like, oh, if you miss it, you like do the whole mental like beat up thing.
Like, you should be stronger. Like,
you should just go get it done. Like, don't ruin your your streak or whatever of however many times you've gone in a row and stuff, and don't fall off the horse. And it's like, yes, that's true. Someone who has truly disciplined themselves can go an entire month, but then they are happily right back on score
And they're like-
on schedule.
They're like, oh yeah, I'm off. Time to get back. And then they just hop back.
And they just get right back
Mhm.
in. That's somebody who's disciplined. Somebody who lacks discipline would have a horrible time trying to get back
The
into that.
extremes.
Yeah, and there's the extremes back and forth. But
Mhm.
since you had told me that, I mean, and that was kind of something that I was thinking about too, because we were talking about that, and I was like, I feel like I'm just. I had noticed that there's a lot of thunder.
Oh,
going
that
on,
made me
so if you
startle.
hear
Am I-
that,
And if you hear one of us randomly jump, I don't know, that startled me.
you hear that
I
in
saw
the
the
background.
lightning
That's-
flash low key out of that little crack.
Yeah,
Whew.
in our boarded up windows. Just kidding.
No, just kidding.
We're in a cute little house.
I know,
Whenever we
it's
got.
great studio space. Shout out to you, Byron.
Yeah.
For letting us use your studio.
But what I had been telling you was like, I've decided, because I had started focusing, because I was like huge plateau, and I'd changed a bunch of things that I was doing. Like I was taking creatine for like months,
Mhm.
and then I stopped taking creatine, and then thought that was going to help, but I was still just kind of at the same place. And then I was like, well, I am eating like crap. So start paying more attention to what I'm eating, and I like lost a few pounds, which was great, because then I was like, no, I need to stop eating out so much, which is always good, because sometimes you just go through seasons where that kind of thing happens. But one thing that I noticed that I was really like getting a little too overly concerned or pressuring myself for no reason was like making sure I was in the gym 5 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened, but it was the conversation with you came later, but I was just thinking to myself, like, why am I putting so much pressure on myself to do this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am probably stressing my body out,
Mm-hmm.
because I am like, if it hits a certain hour in the evening and I'm like, I have to go work out, I'm only going to get 6 hours of sleep or whatever. Like, I mean, I was doing that several weeks in a row where I was just like, I got to do this, but I have to get up, because if I don't, then I'm going to hate myself if I don't go work out. And then, it just kind of hit me like, why am I doing that? Why am I stressing myself so much over this? Like, I started working out because I wanted to feel better, and because I wanted to get stronger, and because I wanted to be disciplined in an area of my life that was lacking discipline. And so I went out and did that, and then at some point it just became, I don't know, something totally that it shouldn't have been. And then I was telling you, like, oh, I'm kind of feeling like, my goal is to make it to the gym 3 times a week.
And we were both kind of having the same
And I want to
conversation
have a
around the
good,
same
like,
time.
and I want to have a great workout, but make sure I'm like sleeping well. And that was something that I was doing. And then you had mentioned that about the sleep thing. And then, so that's something that I've also been considering, is like, all right, if for whatever reason I can't get myself to get to bed or whatever, then I'm not going to stress about it. And maybe I'll try and do something active the next day if I, can work it into my schedule. Early mornings are always the best for me, because I have no mental drive to do anything physical when I'm off work.
Same.
And so sometimes I just chalk it up to, okay, well, I'm not working out today because I just don't have it in me to do it. And that's okay.
And that's okay.
And it's
Yeah.
kind of funny to just kind of come to that realization. But I mean, that can even, that in and of itself is like a hustle mindset.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, I have to do this. And I'm like, well, what am I doing? I'm not competing for anything.
If I
I'm
have
just-
a goal, and there's whatnot, but I think if my goal is
Yeah.
to, like, I want to be
I just want to be stronger.
strong,
Like,
healthy. I want my body to be healthy.
longevity in life is
Comfortable in
tied
my
to
skin.
thick thighs. Did you know that?
I have heard that.
Yeah. Which is funny, because like thick thighs save lives, you know?
I guess
But
I'll be here
it's
till I'm
true.
110.
But it's true, because it was like some podcast I was listening to, but they were basically talking about like the amount of muscle that you have on the largest bones of your body, which is your femur, those thighs. The more muscle you have there, like the just better overall health and longevity of your life is going to be, is what they were saying, because it was basically like your bone density is impacted by how much muscle you have. the amount of muscle mass you have there impacts your stability as you age and things like that. So you're not going to be as prone to injury or falls if you have thicker leg muscles.
Let's
and
go.
So I was like, okay, well, then
Galloping all around this place.
That's the goal then. Just got to have some thick legs.
Maybe we should call this episode Thick Thighs. Maybe.
Get people start listening and they'll be like,
what?
What is this? This podcast sucks.
This is what I thought.
Yeah.
Should we read some scripture?
Well, of course.
Absolutely. Okay, Matthew 6:27 says, can all your worries add a single moment to your life? And I think that is a piece of when we hustle too. Like, I'm not going to have enough money. God's not going to come through. I think there's also a little low-key element of like, I don't trust God.
Just
in
stressing.
this too. Just stressing, period.
I love that verse. I
love
love that
it
verse
too.
because it's so practical. It's such like a point blank thing to come across. Like
Is
when
that
I read
really
it,
gonna-
it was just like a little smack in the face. I was like, oh.
Cool. Can that do anything?
Can anything
Are you going to
that
live
you-
longer because of it?
Yeah, can literally anything that you were stressing about, if you think about this, dear listener, we'll just pause for a moment. Think for 1 second.
Paused.
Think about the things, the top 3 stressors in your life right now. Oh, wait. Okay, they've all come to mind, sure. Can anything that you're freaking out about right now, or mildly freaking about, or even
Low-key.
low-key concerned, can any of that, like by you sitting there ruminating over it, maybe losing sleep over it, or just constantly mulling it over, or as they say, meditating on it, what does that do? What is that doing for you? Is that adding anything to your life? It certainly doesn't add time.
Mm-mm.
In fact, it actually takes time away from your life because heightened levels of cortisol,
Literally.
for long periods of time, shave years off. So
I had to do this.
and you're prone to Alzheimer's, I guess.
Oh, I had to do this research project when I was
Or at least
in
there's
college.
a correlation. I'm not a scientist. Okay, don't come at me.
Makes sense to me. But I had to do, for one of my classes when I was studying athletic training, I had to do a research project. And the one that I got assigned was stress in the body. And I thought it was and it was really neat because one of the things that I came across to discover was that our body has given us cortisol.
Does it sound like the ocean? Because that is the
Sheesh.
water hitting the side of the house.
This is nuts.
Wow.
Wow.
Anyway.
Anyways, so my job was to study like stress not fractures, but factors.
Factors.
And so our body does not create a hormone. Like cortisol is literally our stress hormone that helps us deal with it. And it is made for short-term stress. And so it's like dire situations, right? Fight, flight, freeze. Like it helps you in whatever situation you're in short term. But like we literally do not have it in our body. We don't have anything in our body to help us deal with long-term stress. And I think how much that proves scripture to be true, where like scripture says, cast all your cares on me because I care for you. Because you literally, you have nothing in you that
You
can
physically
do.
can't
You
handle
physically cannot handle it. I
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
And I'm not leaving you. I'm giving you something to help handle emergency situations, right? Like I'm not just going to leave you. But like I've made you to where you cannot depend upon yourself and you have to lean on me. And that was one thing that just like stood out to me, where it's like God gave us cortisol, but nothing else to help with deal, where he truly means like, give it to me. You can't handle it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like Luke 5:16 that says, but Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that example again of what you were saying, is like he never ran, he was never in a hurry to do anything. And then he also prioritized, like he did that. It says that several times in the Bible, where he like, you know, after he would preach to a bunch of people, he would go away and pray and make sure to spend time pouring into himself in prayer, in worship, and just being a very good example to us all. It is.
Sorry, I can hear it. I think it's
outside.
coming through our mics because I can hear it in my ears.
Yeah.
So if you guys hear it,
wild.
that's rain.
That, I don't know what's going on here, but you know,
Well,
just the Midwest.
Lord
Midwest
help
weather.
Holly not freak out. My dog's not a big fan.
Yeah.
That's all right.
So, I just like that. I love that example is there because the world would tell you the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
That all of your favorite people, all of your favorite leaders, and everybody that you thought was like super cool or important or influential in your life, you know, they hustled and they grinded and stuff. And it's like, yeah, they did that for a period of time, but they didn't do it.
Mm-mm.
They're not still doing it.
Well, I think too, you look at families where
And Jesus should be the ultimate example. But.
Exactly. And I'm thinking of family life, right? You look at families where like one of the parents or even like single moms where they have to work 2-3 jobs and like that wears on families.
Yeah.
You can't say that, and if you are a single mother, I give you the utmost props. I don't know how you do it. Like props to you, girl. But that side of, and I'm sure you as a single mother would even say too, like, I wish I had some help. Like we're not made to have to try to do that all on our own all the time. Like God's grace has helped us do that. But like, yeah, it's just, I don't think that's like
There's a lot of pressure to perform.
Pressure. Yeah.
A lot of pressure to perform. And I don't know
enemy, but
yes.
How it got here.
How we got to this place, don't know.
2 Corinthians 12:9 says, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weakness so that Christ's power may rest on me." Like it's okay to be weak and admit that you have it, because that means that God gets all the glory. We were just talking about this before we started rolling on the podcast, but like how the crazy thing about being a believer is how it's like our biggest mess ups, our biggest mistakes, things that shouldn't work, somehow like that's what works in our favor, and God gets glory for it because it's our weakness. Like it shouldn't be that way, but he does things backwards, and how really cool that is.
Yeah. Let's see, what was another thing that was very common. You can pray this over yourself. Psalm 23, 1-6. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I won't fear evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. You can't do any of that if you are hyper focused on just go. Have to do this.
Yeah. Can I take what you said and just maybe give an example too?
Sure.
So when Meryl says, like, when you pray this over yourself, this might be what it looks like. So, Lord, I thank you that you are my shepherd and that you tell me I don't lack anything. Thank you for helping me lie down in green pastures and taking me beside quiet waters and refreshing my soul. Where I don't see it, Lord, please help me see it. Please help open my eyes to where I can see the quiet places you're leading me. Lead me along the right path so you get glory. And in the dark moments, I know I don't have to fear because you're with me. And I know that your rod and staff comfort me. Lord, make a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thank you for anointing my head with oil, and my cup overflows. I have everything that I need. Thank you for your goodness and your love that follow me all the days of my life, and that I get to dwell in your house. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So that's what we mean. Like when you can take it and turn it into a prayer is where you you personalize it to you and to your life.
Yes.
One of the things, I know you and I have had multiple conversations about this, and it's Acts 5:39. And this is a scripture that, that's always kind of stood out to me. And I feel like it's just more and more, I'm getting revelation on it. It says, but if it is from God, so this is, I believe it was the Pharisees. Don't come at me, scholars. I don't know, but it's very religious people who are saying this. I don't remember which ones. But it says, but if this is from God, you will not be able to stop these men. You will only find yourselves fighting against God. And I think sometimes it's this, like in this idea of hustle culture is like, I have to make this work for me versus being like, you know what, if it's God, it's going to work. I'm going to drive. He's going to like give me the things to do. If it's not, I can fight all day I want. I can hustle all day that I want. And good luck. It's not going to work because it's not what God has.
Yeah.
And so kind of just resting in this idea. Like, so this idea was the disciples were out preaching gospel, and these religious men were literally just getting done throwing someone in prison. And then it was like, hey, actually the gospel's going to keep going if it's from God. So don't try to stop it.
Yeah.
And if it does fizzle out, then it wasn't God.
Yeah.
And that's basically the premise of what was happening there.
Yeah. So I had touched on this earlier, but I see this note that I had made that like hustling equals a false sense of control.
Ooh.
And so I'm reminded of what I was saying a little bit earlier about how we can get really task oriented and focusing on going through the motions in order to avoid the big thing that's hanging over our heads that we know is there but don't want to address it.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, if you kind of adopt this hustle mentality where you're just doing all kinds of things and you don't have to address that, I mean, it kind of gives you a false sense of control over your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have this big gaping hole in your life, you know something's missing, like you know that something is lacking in your life. So you try and fill it with all kinds of things. You name it, whatever, doesn't matter. But it does give you a sense of control because you're like, I am making these things happen. I am completing all of these things. I am accomplishing these things. And so therefore I have my life together. Mm-hmm. I've told myself that so many times over the years when I was not walking with the Lord, and I was just eating up my own lies to myself, but I really had myself just going for a while. But it was like, I've talked about that before where I've had serious issues with being a control freak, and I found a lot of comfort in busying myself with stuff. Like the busier that I was, the harder that I strived to accomplish the next thing, to climb the next corporate ladder rung or whatever. Like I was going to try and do it because it actually helped me avoid a lot of things that I was avoiding that needed to be dealt with spiritually, mentally, emotionally. And so, that's good. Not do that.
Let's not do that again. Okay. I just kind of have one more question for us before we
wrap it up. Yeah.
But so we talk so much about like not hustling, but what do you think the difference between resting and laziness is? Because I think that's the other the other side of it.
Yeah, because people who are in this kind of mindset seem to think that if they are resting, that is lazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is being lazy. Well, resting is actually, in my opinion, giving yourself space to either recuperate, to gather yourself, to plan out your next move, to confer with God and other spiritual counsel to make sure, like, hey, is this still the same direction I should be going in this season of my life? Is this still what you want me to be doing, who you want me to be associating with? It is a good resting doesn't just physically mean sleeping or inaction.
Mm-hmm.
It means I am taking a step back, which could mean you're pausing some of the action, but you're working things out in other ways, but also, pouring back into yourself too.
That's a very good point.
Laziness lacks all of those things. Laziness is I think laziness is a character trait in someone who doesn't want to be accountable, doesn't want to be responsible, somebody who is immature. Byron
just goes, dang it.
But I think that those are
That's
characteristics of somebody who is lazy. And if you are someone who likes to think that you are a hard worker or that you are a hustler or whatever, then it's like resting, it does not mean that.
Yeah.
So
Good. I think that's great. Good clarification. Thanks.
What do you think? Any thoughts on that?
No, I think the same.
All right.
All right.
Well, that settles that.
That settles that. Byron's wrapping us up today.
Yeah,
Just
we got to
kidding.
get out of here.
All right. We love you guys.
Be safe. Toodaloo.
Bye.